Hello and welcome back to the Illicit Feminine Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Marth, and I am honored today to have my friend and I guess I would say colleague, even though that seems like such a formal word. Like, I don't love that word. But Athena, we need to go back. Like, what last name are we going by?
I think at the moment it's just Abundance with Athena. There is no real last name. It's just Athena.
It's just Athena.
Oh, yeah.
We're share. It's Athena.
Yes.
That's all it is. You don't need fucking anything else. It's Athena. So I do want to share because Athena and I have been on a journey and I've loved our times together. Like, truly. We met for the first time in Naples. I don't know whether it's 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Both such different versions of ourselves. And Athena, we just got done doing a recording, our part 2 recording on Athena's podcast, Abundance with Athena. And it was magic and I loved it. And I'm so excited now to be doing our time together, our conversation together. And Athena has brought this beautiful idea of transparency, which is what the Illicit Feminine is originally all about. Really just to bring conversations out into the world of women and men, whomever, and everything in between. And going from, yes, everyone's stories have a place and they're really important, but this space is really about having illicit conversations. And Athena and just the universe has been so beautiful. Really, Elizabeth, let's know. I try to go back to maybe being a little structured. She's like, no, we're going to do this. And it's not in those words. It's exactly where I want to go. So Athena and I we're going to have a conversation. And that is actually the direction that I really want the Illicit Feminine to follow. And so I'm really excited. I'm going to just share a little bit of my own personal, like Athena is a bombshell of a woman and currently going to these amazing places. Like I do want to take a moment because I have travel envy, first of all, 100%. She's in Redondo Beach right now, was in Monterey, now Redondo, and then leaving for Hawaii for a while. So I haven't asked you, and I think this will be interesting for our listeners. Like, what are we doing in Hawaii?
Oh, Hawaii is the first official beginning stop of the new nomadic living and working situation.
Say more, please.
Yeah, so it's been a dream, it's been a desire for a little while now to essentially go to a place and be there for 3 months at a time, and then go to another place and be there for 3 months at a time. And so Hawaii is the first one of those. And so it's literally a month from now, August 11th, I'll be flying to Kauai, and then I'll be spending about 3 to 4 weeks there, and then flying to Maui, and then spending about 6 weeks there, and then flying to the Big Island and spending about 4 weeks there. And so that's my first foray into this new life that I'm creating for myself.
Okay, I fucking love this. And then I have to like stop myself because I have like 9 million questions. Where do I want to go? So then is there a place nomadic? One would believe that there will then be another place. So do we know the other place after Hawaii, or is that to be determined?
So that will put me around November 11th, and I want to say the plan, right? But the universe flows, life flows, and I will follow. But my hope is to apply for a 10-day, it's like 12 days actually, 12-day silent meditation sit. It's the Vipassana yoga. And they have a couple of different centers in the area. But essentially that will take me through Thanksgiving. And then I'll fly to the East Coast and spend the holidays for about a month on the East Coast visiting family and friends there. And then since I'll be on that coast, 2026, Venice is calling my name for 3 months in 2026. Yeah.
Okay. I do feel like this is an illicit way to live. I do. I feel like this is the dream of many women. And I feel like there is the limitation belief of, oh, I could never do that. So I'm interested, like what, how, why, like what came about with this nomadic? I've had the pleasure of having so many amazing conversations with Athena. So I have a little knowledge of background of her desire to do this, and like to see her have manifested this and she's living it is so freaking exciting. But I'm also aware this feels really big and this feels really exciting. And I would love to talk a little bit about this with you. Like, how, as a woman who has a life and has these things, are you getting to go create this nomadic lifestyle for yourself?
Yeah. So I think something that I have wanted to do for a while, and so I am still going through a divorce process with, that's why we were being cheeky earlier about no last name. But essentially, that person is in the military. And so I have been very used to moving and exploring and adventuring in different places. That's been part of my life. And this is now doing it the way that I want to, right? So the military isn't telling us where we're going or how long we're going to be there. I am literally co-creating it with the universe the way that what my desires are. And so I think everything is a stepping stone. So I think I had to live that way. And that opened me up, that awakened me up to this desire, even, right? And that if I can do it in the quote unquote safety and security of the military and my previous partner, why not be able to do it by my own self, right? Why can't I create my big life just because I'm getting divorced and because that particular way of living is going away? That doesn't mean that all of my desires have to go along with it and that I have to feel like, who am I or what am I going to do? Although there was obviously some of that in the beginning, but that's the process that you and I went through with conscious uncoupling. That was so helpful to gain clarity and confidence and courage to remember who I am, not just from a spiritual aspect, but also from an empowered woman who can do whatever it is that she wants to do, right? Who has desires past what she thought life would look like. And so it's also with manifestation, it's actually never the manifestation itself. It's who we are becoming on our way to the manifestation. And so I'm very aware that Hawaii is going to be absolutely beautiful, beautiful experience. And at the same time, I even prefaced what Hawaii is going to be when I first was explaining it here, as it is actually my first step into nomadic living. And so while Hawaii is what it is, it's absolutely 100% gorgeous and wonderful. It is actually me becoming the energy of the woman who follows her desires with so much trust and flow with the universe and herself that she knows that the next step will occur. And she follows the impulses and the inspired action, and she allows and she receives that manifestation to occur.
Okay. So I love everything that you said. Now, here's for the illicit part of where our conversation is going to start coming in. When I started traveling, right? So I live in a Midwest town, and I think there's probably people who think they know me, right? And really they do to a certain degree. They know a certain side of me and a certain persona of me. But I wouldn't say that they actually know like the authentic, true me. And so when I started on my journey of like significant transformation, I began traveling a lot on my own. Now, granted, I had traveled on my own since the age of 5. I was first put on an airplane by myself at the age of 5 to go to California, and frequently flew back and forth by myself like my entire life. When I lived in England, I would fly back and forth by myself, travel to different places by myself. That was like a very normal thing for me. When I started doing it as a let's say 41-year-old woman who was married and who had a husband who worked very hard and had children at home and had responsibilities at home. And I started traveling by myself. There was so much back chatter of what I was doing. First of all, how does a woman travel alone? I think that is an illicit conversation to have. How does she provide for herself? Like, I'm just naming some of the things that were coming up. Like, for me, must be really nice, like, that your husband is working so hard and you're off gallivanting around Europe and doing these other things, right? Having no clue that that was all independently paid for, because unfortunately I had lost people in my life and they had generously left me money. And so I was footing the bill for that. And so I felt, and this was obviously triggering for me in different ways, but I felt that the criticism that came from me choosing me and following my desires and doing that as a woman traveling, and I get this is a little different, like, but this is nomadic living. Like, people were taking this beyond just going on a vacation. Is there anything that you get pushback, resistance from? And if you don't, do you see it amongst other women? Like, women choosing themselves, empowering themselves, and following their desires, even if that literally means nomadic, not even if, and that embraces the abundance of nomadic living.
I first want to ask a clarifying question for you. Were these your own thoughts that you were having about yourself, or were they literally comments that were coming from other people?
So they were literally comments that were coming from other people. But what you and I know, that everything is a mirror or a projection. So clearly those were fears that were like in my shadows that I had not at that point allowed to come up. But yes, they were also coming both. Like, they were in my mind, and then I had been manifesting those fears for people to say that.
Yeah. So with that being said, Elizabeth, no, I don't have anybody. Nope. I think partly because I don't have the husband anymore and I don't have children. And so I have a little bit more freedom. I am not necessarily also creating a life for somebody else, like a child. And I don't have any pets anymore either. So I'm literally like, it's just 100% freedom. And this is the route that I've chosen to go. And I think because it's been something that's been inside me, travel, for a long time, and it's been something that I've loved to do, it's not actually even a surprise to people. I think there might be a little bit of, there's some questions sometimes about the hows and honestly, what it really comes down to, oftentimes people will hear it and then automatically jump to money and say something like, oh, well, then your business must be doing really well, or you must be bringing in a lot of money, or blah, 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 blah. And I don't necessarily even engage with that either, because it's not all about money either, right? Because that's just one of those safety and security things. And while these are well-meaning people who are just wanting me to be safe and also trying to probably conceptualize it for themselves too, that this could be a possibility, they jump to money. And part of this, again, manifestation for me is about learning to trust the flow of life, learning to trust that this desire was put in me so much so that I don't have to know the exact hows. And while I do have financial resources, that's not even actually how I necessarily want to co-create this adventure that I'm going on, right? I don't actually want to be in like the Hilton in Maui, right? Like, I want the community aspect of this adventure. Like, I want connections on the ground adventure. And that, I think, there's a level of trust that all of these components are going to come together and life is just going to unfold and flow, and letting go of that control. That's different than, well, I've got all of this money and I'm always going to be safe no matter where I go because I have the money. Does that make sense?
Oh, this makes huge sense. And I think that this is a huge thing, not just among women, among people. And I mean, money is a topic that is way controversial, right? And I think in all fairness, so is talking about trusting we would say trusting the universe, but you could even say trusting God, like in a religious way. That would be like a controversial thing for people who make money their source. And when I say that, I mean people who put money in not the eyes of God providing it. So in this, how do you feel your relationship with money? And like what you're saying, like you're going and it's not about the money, it's about the experiences, and like you're not necessarily looking for the most lavish, accommodation and different things like that. How has your relationship with money changed in the last few years where you don't feel as bound by the amount of it?
Such a great question. I think the realization has come that while we use money as a tool in our society, it is just another energy that we can harness. And just like I've harnessed other energies in other areas of life, and they're not the be all end all, like even taking love, right? I'm going to go as a single woman who is in the divorce process. I'm going to go and I'm going to create this life. And nobody's asking me about having a partner. How are you going to do that when you don't have love, like a particular partner that's giving you love, the energy of love? But they do that with the energy of money. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really interesting. And I know that like we don't circulate love as our tool of money in our society, but it's all just energy. And so because I have learned to trust in universal energy, and because I trust in myself and I trust in life to unfold, and I don't have a bunch of lack, scarcity, and fear as much as I once did about the world being a bad place, or that you need to be on guard, or that people are actually worse than they are, and there's more that divides us than there is that unites us, because I know that all that shit that I was taught isn't true. I can be a little bit more free flowing. I can let go of control. I don't have to have everything planned to the T. And it's so much more fun when we do this, right? Like there's this initial fear, right? Because that's not necessarily, it's the unknown. So anything in the unknown can be scary. But the more that you step into the unknown and you allow for life to unfold, you see that you're always okay, that you're always taken care of, that you're always held. And when you see that, when you open your mind to that, and you, again, go into the unknown more and more often, you start to shift from that lack, scarcity, and fear into the reality, and seeing the reality that you are well taken care of. And so I think that's really the shift that's occurred, and took the divorce to essentially shake up my life to say, wow, you planned a lot. Yeah, you planned that whole life that you had intended for yourself. Whew, that was real great. Here's the little shake up from the universe and life. And here's this other way that you can be and live. And being a military spouse and planning every single thing all of the time, to essentially, it's a month out and I don't know where I'm staying in Kauai, but I have the ticket, so I'm going to go. And I know that it's going to work out. I know it's going to work out. That is what's changed. Like, I'm not so scared anymore. That's what it is. And it's when we live in that place and we have that trust where the magic unfolds.
I could just listen to you talk about this, because it's not only inspiring, which it absolutely is, but it's also just so exciting. What do you think it was that helped you to make the shift from more of a lack, scarcity mindset and structure? It's not that you're not structured right now, like rigidly structured, to allowing yourself to really just be led and guided by the universe. Was it like overnight, or was it really like this gradual practice of trust, allowing? Like, what is the piece? Because I think we can talk about the universe will provide and the universe will take care. And there's nothing truer than that. But until you're in that practice and until you're in that energy and until you're in that mindset and until you're doing the work around that, they're just words.
Yes. And it probably sounds a little batshit crazy, honestly. Like sometimes.
Like,
no, I know it doesn't.
But right. Yes, I think too, like people who are not in energetics, they think we're fucking crazy.
Exactly. Right? No, I totally understand. Yes. And of course it wasn't an overnight thing. No, absolutely not. The way that I see it is, there's that programming and conditioning of how we're raised. And for me, a lot of that was the world is a scary place and it's not to be trusted and you need to defend against it and you need to protect yourself and you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to do that and create a successful life. And I was on that road and then got into coaching and personal development, which then led into spirituality. And the way that I look at it is we start to think differently. We start to think differently cognitively, right? We learn different things. We start to open our mind a little bit to different possibilities by listening to other people and learning. And then from there, for me, it moved into kind of the feeling state. Like I had to really feel what we're talking about because we are only using words, right? And so there is a feeling state that needs to be felt individually for people to have their own experience with what we're talking about. Because you're right, like you and I can talk all day about all this stuff, but until listeners or whoever is interested in this, until they have their own experience, until they start connecting the thoughts to the feelings that they're having, embodying more of that energy that we're talking about, and even starting to just learn. We were talking a little bit about this on my podcast, learn to incorporate their body and their emotions into their whole way of living, then all of this will just be words. So for me, it was cognitive, then it was emotional embodiment of the energy of different possibilities. And then from there, honestly, it was the big awakening of the divorce, right? The shakeup. And this has been at least probably 3-year period. And I have been in it every step of the way, like every single day. And this is just yet another deepening into it, right? Because Hawaii is beautiful. That's great. That's the manifestation. But the real becoming is I'm still in the process. Can I, a month out, can I not punk myself out, get nervous enough that like it's getting down to the wire and I don't know where I'm going to stay for the first month, like in Kauai? When is Athena going to essentially get so scared that she reneges on her desire and cancels her ticket? Or when is she just going to fully allow the manifestation to come in? It's that trust, right? It's that deepening into, and the more that I can have these experiences where I'm not saying I'm testing myself, but I'm just watching the manifestation process and seeing even more experientially how I can, or how I am living into it and building that trust in life, in the flow of life. And so I'm very aware of that, right? And I'm choosing to put my money where my beliefs are, where my mouth is, by having this desire that's going to occur in a month, even though I don't know exactly how it's going to occur. And how can I be the woman who is able to be in that energy of trust and allowing and belief that this is going to happen because this was meant for her? How can I do that? Like, how can I be the woman that does that? And it's sitting in it and it's taking the impulses that come to me, reaching out to various people and just allowing. So that's what this is.
I love it. I love it. So I definitely want to have you back on when you're in Hawaii, like after, right? Like maybe like the 3rd month. And I want to hear like what it is. Okay. What do you think illicit means? What does illicit mean to you?
Oh, I feel like illicit means those parts of ourselves where we're not fully living into in full integrity. Conversations that we're having, ways of being that we've been taught are not appropriate, and that we are not as comfortable with talking about or even being. And the invitation actually to look at that and invite ourselves into what does it look like to be in more full integrity with myself and with others, so that way it isn't actually illicit anymore.
Okay, so what has been illicit in your becoming?
I like to look at the future a little bit. So I think your work specifically around sexuality and power and empowerment, and what that has the potential to look like in my life, is something that is essentially currently illicit, so not fully in the light. And I am excited and interested to uncover that for myself even more and to see where that leads.
Okay, so what with the power, empowerment, sexuality, what feels, because we talked about this a little bit on your podcast, we're always evolving. Like as soon as we reach, it's the same as Hawaii, right? Like as soon as you reach Hawaii, like you've already reached Hawaii, there's the next desire that comes on, right? So it is the becoming. It's not the Ferrari in the driveway, because once you get the Ferrari in the driveway, you're going to be like, what's the next thing? Because it's the becoming who we are that develops in order to get the manifestation. So what is being in your empowerment or in the sexuality look different for you in the future than it does right now?
There's more of an embodiment of the sensual and sexual energy. There is less questions around it that come up in my brain from my mind chatter, from my ego. And it's more fluidity. It's more of a state of being that is turn on more often. It's more of that bringing it into my everyday life, as opposed to having it cut off or not fully integrated.
Would you be willing, and we can go back and forth on this, but would you be willing to share some of the mind chatter? Because I think the mind chatter is what holds people up. I think the mind chatter can feel really real.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I'll just tell a quick story. A couple of years ago, I was swimming at a pool, an indoor pool at a rec center, and there were some kids going down a slide. And I was like, okay, what would be really fun to do after I swim for exercise? And I was like, I'm going to go down the slide a couple of times. And so I went down the slide a couple of times. And so now I'm in like my sensuality. I'm feeling lit up. I'm having a playful, good time. And then, so I was going to there's a sauna also on the side of the pool. And so I walked over and I did a cannonball in this like deep end area. And so I'm just in it now. Like I'm having a great time. I'm not really caring about like what other people are thinking or whatever as they're swimming laps. And I'm getting out of the pool and I'm feeling really embodied. I'm feeling really powerful. Like my body feels strong. And I remember stepping out of the pool and feeling that way, like proud of my body, feeling sexy, right? And playful. And then I remember the second thought that came up was, don't be too much though. Just like power back in a little bit, because when you are that lit up, you don't want to utilize this power in a sexual way to attract attention from men or anyone else. Like you shouldn't do that. You're not supposed to do that. And it immediately tampered everything that I was feeling. And then I became self-conscious. And then, so that's what I'm talking about with the mind chatter, as opposed to having maybe that thought come up and being like, oh no, I don't believe that anymore. That's not a thing. I've explored what that means and why that even came up as a thought. And that's no longer my authentic response. So to feel more empowered and embodied in that sense.
I love what you shared. And I love that you shared, because I believe that so many women have this experience. And it may not be at an indoor pool, it might not be with the slide and the cannonball. It can be anything, that they're in their full embodiment. And then the thought comes in of, don't be too much. That's a huge one for women. Guard like the spectrum of whatever that encompasses. Don't be too much. Don't attract attention, especially like in a sexual nature, but don't attract attention regardless. Don't have too much self-confidence. Don't be too full of yourself, and don't be too much in your joy. And then what I loved that you put so beautifully, women, I did this, and this is a practice of like energetic alchemy that I have to do daily, not have to, choose to do daily. We'll have that happen, of that tamping down. Like it's that, almost that dual of like your authentic, divine, true self, and then the ego or the lies or the not truths. And you so beautifully put it. I think some women will take these as truths, and then they'll change actually their authentic self and let this false ego self take over and believe those things, because they don't necessarily have the tools or even the awareness that those are all lies. Like those are all conditioned, limiting lies and responses. And when you shared, oh, it was so beautiful. When you shared, I went back into that, right? Or showing up as the woman who was like, I have explored those. I have gone back into those. I have looked at what those mean, and I have understood those weren't my truths. They were just that energy that I've released and I've let go, and I'm going to fully stand in this version of the empowered me. And that's what I want every woman on this planet, I want every person, but every woman, whoever identifies as a female, whatever, I want all of that, every woman to know that. Because I think that is the battle that goes on daily. And there's a difference between the conscious awareness of it and being able to use your tools, and then the unconscious thought of, that's your truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you pretty much grounded in, I know those are false beliefs, or do you still have things that come up for you that you mistake as truths at some time and then have to go back and do your work?
Absolutely. I absolutely have those moments. I think until I essentially have a thought like that and then am just allowing it to completely go, as opposed to being super aware of it. I think that's actually the next step of full embodiment and acceptance, is to see the thought and just have absolutely no response or reaction at all to it. Maybe even chuckle a little bit, like, cute. So yeah, I think, but that's the work too, right? Just as you were saying, is even just catching it and saying, that's not my truth anymore. And then choosing to continue to be in the beautiful state of turn on. So yeah, absolutely. And like with everything, it's a process and it's a journey. And I think that's, you asked me earlier, I think that is really what I continue to work on and want to work on, because I think when we get to different levels of essentially empowerment or power that we are utilizing in our everyday businesses, families, communications, right? That is underpinning and underlying a lot of what we are able to do authentically and fully in our empowerment or not. And with every new level of empowerment, this stuff comes back in a different way because it's a different level. And so I think it's something to be aware of and conscious of as we continue to grow and expand in this area as well.
Absolutely. One of the things you had shared, and I'd love to talk about this for a little bit, was your body. You felt really strong in your body. How do you feel about your body? And how do you, because I think the conversation around women's relationships with their body is really important. How do you feel about your body?
So I have had a weird relationship with my body for a while in the past. I am finally at a place where it feels really authentically good to be in my body. But I definitely, when I was younger, had some moments where I was chubbier and then got teased about it. And then so later in life, there was a lot of exercise, a lot of over exercise to try to be thin and beautiful by society's standards. And I think that it has been the underlying thing for me for a long period of time until recently, where other aspects of my life have grown and evolved. This relationship that I've had with my body has also, and effortlessly is exactly where I've always wanted it to be because I essentially accepted it for what it is, which seems really paradoxical until you experience that, right? Because when we're wanting our bodies to be different than what they are, and we're constantly essentially making them a problem of something that we need to fix and we need to change, and we're not like accepting, acknowledging, and being in appreciation for all of it, of what it does as it is, there's a lot of stress and pressure that we unknowingly, I think, put onto ourselves that really does impact our body. And when I was finally like, when I was moving into the cognitive, into the emotional, and then the embodiment of energy for the personal work that I was doing, and I left the home that my husband and I shared together, I lost 15 pounds within 6 months or something like that. And I didn't do anything. Like, I didn't do anything. It just happened. And so I think that there's real power in just allowing it and accepting it and not viewing it as a problem, and then it just manifests into exactly what you want. There's an element of surrender into an appreciation of what is that then allows it to all fall into place.
Absolutely. It's so interesting that you say that. I believe that we all carry the weight of our emotions. And so when we begin doing our work, a lot of times weight does come off. Weight can also be a safety issue of feeling safe and different things. And it's so interesting, similar to your, well, in ways, when my husband started doing his own emotional work, he lost like between 50 and 75 pounds. And
Wow.
people will constantly be like, what diet are you on? Are you on, what shot do you take? What medicine do you do? Does she, meaning me, strict your diet? Do you not get to eat anything? I'm like, I'm not his mother. And so it literally energetically shifted because there was different things. And I think there's that piece for that. But I think it's so beautiful as a woman, right? Because it is different for men, I believe. But as a woman, when you are accepting and allowing and loving who you are, and I do things to enhance my body, I do things to enhance my face. And that's not because I don't love myself. It's not because I feel insecure. It's because I like looking a certain way, right? And as I continue to get older, I do need to check myself and be like, hey, what is the motivation here? Because self-talk is really important to me. And I love even the parts of me that I would like to change. Like, I love them. I'm so grateful for them. And I do think that our gratitude for our bodies is what keeps us healthy and not in dis-ease. And so when you're talking about the acceptance and when you're talking about essentially, I mean, it's self-love, it's self-appreciation, it's the gratitude. I think that's a really important piece of our growth work. I think it's a piece, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it's a piece that doesn't get talked about. I say this, I'll be like in the women's dressing rooms and I'll hear these beautiful women, like beautiful inside and out, not just physically beautiful, like they're beautiful people. They are slandering themselves of how they look in something in a mirror. And I want to be like, okay, we all need to have like a powwow, everybody come out. We can't do this. This is not okay. And I'm interested in, so do you have Louise Hay does like mirror exercises and talks about looking in your eyes, and because a lot of women, this is a great exercise, look in the mirror and look in your eyes and tell yourself what things you really love about yourself. And I guess I'm curious, in your work and in your growth that you've been doing, do you have an exercise that you do like that or a practice?
I love the mirror work in general. And I think I don't necessarily look at myself in the mirror and then say things that I love about myself, but I definitely, there's something about like your mirror image of being able to see more deeply into your own self. And so sometimes words are not even needed at that point. You can just be in the presence of yourself, which is incredibly powerful. But as far as my body goes, I don't necessarily have one particular practice that I do every day. I think it's more of a state of being with my body. So if I am putting on lotion, doing it in a really present way, I'm talking about sensuality also, right? Being very present with my body and just appreciating what that particular body part does for me or how it moves or how it looks or whatever it is, and just being in presence with my body and appreciating. And I think that's honestly all you need to do to feel embodied.
Yeah. I think that piece about presence is so important. Like that presence and intention of just being really there with yourself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that really is what embodiment is, right? Just really being there with yourself.
Yeah. I actually have a follow-up question for you for something that you said.
Ooh, I love it. Please.
So you said something about enhancing certain aspects of your body or the way that you look. And my sense and perception of that is that because you also said that you love yourself wholly with your body,
Mhm.
can you talk a little bit more about the desire to maybe play with or enhance or to experiment with your body versus the feeling of or the state of being of I need to change it for a specific outcome? What is the difference in the energies there?
First of all, I love how you just put it. I mean, I think that's such a beautiful way of playing with it and enhancing it versus something needs to change. And I think you answered this question. I think those are the differences. I think, like, generally speaking, when you're coming from an energy of there's something wrong with me and I need to fix it in order to feel better, I need to change it. Something needs to be different in order for, right? And apply that to any area of your life. But we're just talking really about like our bodies are physical beings. Then I think that's the energy of like lack or scarcity or fear, which I have been in. That's not necessarily my journey here this lifetime with my body, but I've been like that emotionally. I mean, I've experienced that feeling like on other planes. For me, it is playing with and enhancing. I'm a designer by trade. That was what I went to school for. That was what I grew up loving, was decorating and making things beautiful. That at my core is really who I am. So now I just do it with emotions and growth and transformational and spiritual work, but it's all the same. And so the things that I have changed about myself, I loved. I knew they weren't going to make me any different. And I figured that in this lifetime, like I have one lifetime in this lifetime, I want to have fun with it. And so that has come where I had a breast augmentation. I had always wanted larger breasts just to feel more womanly. So I guess there was a feeling of feeling more looking. How about I say that? Because I don't know that it was more about the feeling. It was a looking. And that's been a journey. That's a whole other either conversation with you or podcast or that is. But I did that not because there was something wrong. I loved my boobs before and I love them now. But I think it is the playing with it, enhancing and the having fun and feeling like my outside looks like how I feel inside. And leaving room for that to change, like leaving room to be like, oh, I'm done with Botox for now. That was fun. Like I enjoyed it, but I'm done for now. Or leaving room to be like, oh, what's that if I do this? So it comes from a different energy of being like, I'm good as how I am. I don't do it because I think I need to do it in order to be okay. And I think that there is the difference in that. Well, I think this is a controversial subject also, because if you are in self-love and self-acceptance and any of that, why would you need to change yourself? Which are questions I have asked. I've done the work around this to be like, should you do this as in the work that you're in? Women should love and feel empowered and like all these things. Like that's what you want women to do, and you're doing these things. So I'm up for any conversation or question that could come. I think I've covered a lot of that, but I likened it. I had a coach ask me, it was like, if I own a home that's 100 years old, if I were to be like, I'm just going to accept it how she is, and when the paint starts to rot and the windows start to crack and the grass grows, I'm just going to let it go because I love her. I love my house. No, I repaint the house every so many years. I mow my lawn. I take care of my garden because I love it. We put in new windows. I liken my body to like a house. Like I want to keep it up. Makes me feel good.
I love that. Okay, so do you have a solo cast episode on that?
Not yet. This is the first time I've actually shared live that I had a breast augmentation. Even though I've posted and alluded to it, I haven't owned that publicly. So Athena, here we go.
Yay, good. Okay, wonderful. I would be very interested to hear more on that personal journey for you.
And that's definitely, I actually am going to write, I don't know whether it's a part of my book or it's like a side book, because it actually was a huge spiritual journey for me. And I think that breast augmentations, and you could probably say this about other plastic surgery, but I think that they're huge spiritual journeys that get missed. So there's a huge piece on that.
Okay, good. Because I also want to be upfront when I think either you told me about it or I saw it and maybe I asked about it. My response, which I became very aware of later, do you remember what my response was?
I never found it offensive, if that's what it was. I felt
Good.
you were supportive.
No, yeah. I was. I said something like, I'm just checking in to see why you were doing it because I have a friend who is going through breast cancer. And so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything in your journey. But even in that answer or in that like reasoning, right, you can tell that there's a little bit of judgment there. Or at least I could, because it was kind of like, well, why would you do, or maybe not judgment, but maybe unconsciousness. Why would you want to do something like that to yourself if it's not because of something medically necessary or life-threatening, right? As if. So
you're not alone in that question. People have said that. And then I'll say to myself, I don't even know that I want to say this out loud. I'm going to be honest though. This is like controversial. Go ahead, but I'm going to be human for a second. Like when I'm feeling self-conscious, because this has been like a huge personal journey for me. I have felt very self-conscious because they're bigger than what I wanted. And when I wear skimpy bathing suits, I wear skimpy clothes. I have a 15-year-old son. I have a daughter who has friends' parents, you name it. Okay. It has brought out every insecurity I have, and had been like, if you had cancer and had to do this because of you wanted breasts, that would be more acceptable. Mm-hmm. Who are you that you chose to do it just because you wanted to? So you're not saying anything that other people haven't said, and you're not saying anything that I haven't thought of myself.
Right, yeah.
And I think this is why I haven't quite had the conversation, because sometimes I think I need to be ahead of the conversations that I had, but actually, because I actually know some women who are choosing to do some different things plastic surgery wise right now, and this isn't stuff that people talk about. I mean, it really isn't. I actually probably need to do an episode about this in real lifetime. Hey, yeah, new boobs are amazing. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes along with it. If you were to ask me would I do it again, my answer to you would probably be like, probably not.
But I love that, Elizabeth, because it goes back to a little bit of the playfulness that we were talking about. Yes, because and this is the other part of this, normalizing something that like this with dyeing your hair. Okay, yes. I dyed my hair green or whatever, and I didn't like it. And would I do it again that color or that way? No. But like I think that's really what I'm almost wanting to ask you to help me and other people come into a better understanding for ourselves. because it's also related to sexuality.
Oh
That's the only reason why this isn't about green hair. That's all.
It's the only reason. And the things that have come up that I've had to deal with my own sexuality, it's things that family members say. It's things that as a woman that you change your body, of why and what are your motives, like sexuality. When I say this has been an entire Dharma journey in itself, like I know I was supposed to do this. Like I have no doubt. But yes, I will get more. And maybe this is a conversation that you and I have as well. I will get more into that. And I'm not going to wait for it to come to completion because I don't know when and if that will. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me that. I think that was really good. And I have enjoyed having you on so much. We are going to do another. We went off a little topic. I got interested in Athena's travel, and I think it's important also. But we're going to have another conversation. Actually, I would love the women that I have on. I would love to have continuous conversations because I really just feel like there's so many different things we can talk about. And I just really honor and respect you. And I love our conversation. So thank you for today.
Thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for having me and holding space. And it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.